My 30M mom, 59F, hates my wife, 30F. Is going no contact the only option? Long story, so I'll summarize. My wife and I have married for 8 years and have been together for nearly 10. At the start of our relationship, my wife and my mom got along great. My mom even told me that she thinks I found the one. Things started to change after we got engaged. My wife chose not to take my mom wedding dress shopping and took her grandmother, her mother, and her 2 maids of honor. My mom also said the bridal showers made her and my sister feel very uncomfortable because my wife comes from money and my family was lower middle class. Even more background, my mom grew up dirt poor and suffered a lot of abuse growing up, which I think gave her a lot of undiagnosed mental health issues. My mom told me all of this and I was able to communicate this to my wife. My wife did her best to make her and my family feel included in the wedding, and I think overall it went very well and I thought things were great. For years, things stood like that, just fine. My wife felt she had to walk on some eggshells not to offend my mom, but she was capable and willing to do this. However, one time during a family trip, my mom broke down and told me she was having a hard time letting go of me and how we used to be best friends and now she doesn't know me. This was 5 years into my marriage and I told her I thought it was strange how it was just now coming up. But alas, things changed for the worse when my wife got pregnant with our child, M2. Once we announced that she was pregnant, my mom made it known that she was going to buy a pack of diapers every time my dad got paid. My mom has always been a stay-at-home mom. A few months into the pregnancy, my wife let it slip that her mom, my ML, was planning on a big diaper drop. Once my mom heard this, she broke down again about how her gifts are never enough and that she feels like my wife and I feel that she's not going to be good enough for our future child. Also, a few months after, at lunch, we got on the topic of the birthing room. I told my mom, dad, and my wife that I was comfortable with whatever my wife wanted. My wife said she wanted me, her mom and her cousin in the room. My mom immediately busted out into tears about how she wasn't good enough to be in the room for her first grandchild. My wife explained that she would just be more comfortable with her mom, me and her cousin, and my mom responded that when she birthed me, her ML, my grandmother, was there in the room and she was uncomfortable but knew it was a special time for my grandmother. My wife eventually apologized and they reconciled to let bygones be bygones. This conversation turned out to be moot anyways because with COVID restrictions at the time, I was the only person allowed in. Fast forward to the night before my son's first birthday, we're eating dinner and my wife is showing my mom that she always squishes his blueberries before feeding them to my son. My mom yells, "Do you guys think I'm stupid?" I've raised children before this blew up into a huge fight, once again about my mom feeling that she's never going to be good enough to be around my son and how me and my wife make everyone feel uncomfortable with our strict parenting techniques. She also said a lot of things about my wife personally, even calling her a snobby bitch at some point, and pretty much ruined my son's first birthday. A few months later, my mom apologized for saying all of those things before my son's birthday but didn't exactly apologize for what she said. My wife did not forgive her, rightfully so, but said she could come around still because my wife did not want to ask me to cut my mom out our lives. Fast forward once again to a few weeks ago, my ML comes in to watch my son when I was traveling for work because my wife, who's a nurse and works 12-hour shifts, cannot pick my son up from daycare. My mom gets her feelings hurt and says, "I just never feel like I'm good enough." This one was on me because I had previously told my mom she could watch my son when I went on this trip. I had to travel again a few weeks later and we told her she could watch my son then. She came in on a Friday and was supposed to stay a week. Things were great for the first few days, but then the day before I'm supposed to leave for work we have another incident. My wife was planning on making lunch but my mom said she's going to go get a tea from a fast food chain. I asked my mom to just get me a snack, so I can still eat my wife's lunch, and my mom comes home with my snack, my drink, and a full combo for herself. For context, my mom does have a medical issue where she needs to eat or she has issues. My mom explained that she cannot wait that long to eat between meals, but my wife felt like she did not want to eat her cooking and was pretty passive-aggressive the rest of the day. Eventually, my mom catches on that my wife is upset and calls her out for not talking to her. This starts a big fight and my mom goes and stays in a hotel but still watches my son while I'm gone. I come back early from my work trip to minimize the time that my wife and my mom have to be alone. My mom calls me a few days later and tells me to not talk to her if my wife is around. She also says her biggest regret is that my friend introduced me and my wife and she wishes that I picked a wife that could get along better with the family. She says for my sake, because she knows my wife gives me hell, she can exit the picture and my wife can have what she always wanted me to herself and my mom out of the picture. My wife has made some mistakes, but I would say 80% of the issues come from my mom. I have told both my wife and my mom that I support my wife in this, but obviously this is still tough on me to not have a relationship with my mother. What should I do?